Okay, guys, I'm going to be summarizing everything we've been doing with fiscal policy. I know you've worked on some worksheets. This is a note set I'm going to place on our classroom. It's just for us to go back through fiscal policy. So when I start showing you the free response questions, you'll understand and have something to go back to. So again, I'm using a PowerPoint from Mr. Mayer. And what we're going to be looking at is fiscal policy. And this is what we currently see the government doing in efforts to promote full employment because they are having employment issues right now. And price stability by changing government spending and taxes. So currently today, we see our government spending a whole lot, 2 trillion to be exact. And so in the recession that we're currently in, because people are losing jobs and that's a signal that we're in a recession, the government has increased spending. We see that they are increasing medical spending, they're helping states. Also, a government is making payments to people, which in a week or two, people should be seeing that according to what we have read in that stimulus package. They did not increase taxes. Do you see how those are both in the inverse? Okay, so we are in a recession currently. I know we have to have 6 months of data, but we're seeing that the government is going to increase that spending because we know we're on like the business cycle, it goes down, right? So the government is trying to do this expansionary fiscal policy to pull us out of that contraction. And in inflation, the government does the opposite. They'll decrease their spending and increase taxes. So in order to combat a recession, the government engages in expansionary fiscal policy. So the government, what they're going to do is they're going to increase government spending and decrease taxes. Now that government increases money going out, aggregate demand should shift to the right, causing people to demand more and the price level to go up. People are demanding goods because they have good money in their pockets, so gross domestic product goes up, which causes, if we're producing more, people are buying more, we will cause unemployment to go down. And that was our whole thing with a recession. They needed to fix the unemployment. And so by the government spending and putting more money in people's pockets, the aggregate demand goes up. People are demanding stuff. It causes the economy to start producing stuff. And so this is what the government is hoping to do with the new stimulus package, is they're hoping that people get money in their pocket. They spend that. It creates jobs, which causes unemployment, which is our biggest problem in a recession, to go down. So notice the price level will increase as the unintended effect of this. So here is my graph. You see right here, we have that recessionary gap, right? And so we want this recessionary gap to go away. The government increases spending, that gives money to people's pockets, so it increases that aggregate demand. The aggregate demand curve goes to the right. You will see that GDP increased, right? Price levels went up. GDP increases means unemployment goes down. Okay? Taxes go down. We see that consumer spending goes up, and we see overall that they have combated, they have gotten rid of this recessionary gap. Okay? On the other hand, contractionary fiscal policies used during an inflation. We know inflation is over 3%. And so the government comes in and they decrease government spending. They increase taxes. So if the government is decreasing what it's spending, maybe some people are losing jobs. They increase taxes. That means the government is taking money out of your pocket. So the aggregate demand decreases. It goes to left. And if demand decreases, that causes the price level to go down, which causes GDP to go down, which causes unemployment to go down. So the effect of this, with the government taking that money away from people through taxes, it kind of slows the economy and causes the next problem of the next phase, the business cycle. So I just talked about this. So now we're going to look that we should have an expansionary gap over here. And we know that expansionary gap is to the right. When the government takes that tax money away from people, that aggregate demand curve shifts to the left, right? Causing the price level to go down, causing GDP, the gross domestic product that a nation is producing, to decrease as well. So that's the unintended effect. Okay, so there is 2 different types of fiscal policy. One is called discretionary. Discretionary is an increase or decrease in government spending and taxes in order to return the economy to full employment. It involves policymakers doing fiscal policy in response to economic problems. So this is exactly what the stimulus package was. It was our government coming together, everybody in Congress, they came together, they created a policy, and they passed it. So it's not always going to be forever. It's a one-time thing. They're trying to restore order and stability to our economy. However, the other one is automatic. I don't know if y'all saw this on the news recently. A lot of people have lost their jobs. You have to be living under a rock not to understand that right now. I'm pretty sure that all 14 of y'all are in tune to what's going on. But people are losing jobs, and unemployment benefits, we talked about this in our paycheck, is automatically taken away, so that when people lose their job, they could collect a portion of what they have contributed. That's automatic. Unemployment compensation are example of policies that help mitigate the effects of a recession. People could get food stamps, okay? Those are automatic things that the government doesn't have to come around and sit down. They automatically go into effect. Congressional members do not need to come together to determine a policy. It's there. And if you've seen, the government has actually extended unemployment benefits. Okay, so there is some weaknesses to fiscal policy. One, there's lags. It takes time for the problem to be recognized. So if you realize our first, COVID-19 has been going on globally, right? Well, the first case in the United States was January. And then things started heating up in February, and our economy started taking a nosedive. But it took our government looking at those economic indicators, what was going on in the stock market, what was going on with production, what was going on with unemployment, what was going on with inflation. They had to look at those problems and recognize them, and it has to be long lasting. It couldn't just be a hiccup. It had to be something that was destabilizing for them to promote a solution. So that's the inside lag, our Congress and our president coming together. The outside lag, yes, they've come up with a stimulus package, but how long is that going to take to actually fix the solution? Many people say it's a one-time thing, so we'll see a gentle increase in our GDP, but it may not promote lasting effects, and who knows how long this pandemic will last. Political motivation. Often politicians face re-election issues. We know in the Senate every 6 years, in the House every 2 years, and they knew that if they do expansionary, many people will vote for them because they're decreasing their taxes and increasing government spending. But however, in contractionary fiscal policy, where we're reducing government spending and increasing government taxation, that is not popular. You're not gonna, if you were to have a politician going around saying, I'm going to increase your taxes, many people would not vote for him. And so contractionary fiscal policy is actually harder to do because the government doesn't go around and increase your taxes very frequently, right? Increased government spending and decreased taxes always are more popular with voters, and increased taxes and decreased spending. That's what I was just talking about. Okay, so we're going to talk about the side effects with this. Expansionary fiscal policy side effect is that it causes crowding out. Expansionary is the government is spending. And so I want you to think of our whole money supply. We talked about it in our curves as being it's vertical, that curve. Remember, we talked about it. And when our government, we know that the Fed has money, right? Here is my money pit, okay? And the government is going to start spending, right? They're doing $2 trillion in the stimulus. So they need to borrow some money from the Fed. They're going to be putting their hand in. Can businesses put their hand in to borrow? And that's one of the things that it crowds out other people from getting into the money supply that we know from our monetary policy information. On that money curve, it's vertical. And so expansionary fiscal policy where the government borrows money causes the crowding out effect. Okay? Oh, sorry. There's something, I don't know how to do this. I don't know why this program is going. I don't even know how I downloaded it. I don't know what it is, but it just pops up. Okay, so we're going to see the possible side effect of government spending and reduced taxes is a budget deficit. That is the biggest thing because the government is spending. They haven't increased taxes to be able to compensate for this because that would be counterintuitive. increased government spending and increased taxes. So it crowds out business, from getting into this money supply that we talked about being very finite at a moment. Okay? So when the government increases its spending, the taxes go down. The government must borrow in order to continue the spending. So when this $2 trillion thing went out, the stimulus package, the government did borrow. It conducted monetary policy. This leads to an increase in the demand for loanable funds and a decrease in supply of loanable funds for businesses to be able to get their hands on. So this will result in an increase in the rate. And we're going to see that this will lead to businesses not wanting to borrow at that interest rate. And in addition, an increase in the interest rate causes the demand for money to go to the right, and we'll see the supply of money to decrease. And investors seek higher returns in the U.S. This leads to the supply of money going up, which leads to exports going down, which leads to imports going up. So net exports goes down. Because of in business and net exports are direct components of aggregate demand, these decrease offsets the increase of aggregate demand. Which this was all stuff that we talked about in monetary policy. So we're going to talk about it right here. The graphs will make sense of everything I just said. So here is the supply of loanable funds. Here is the demand for loanable funds. The government is going to crowd us out, right? Come on. So when the government borrows, that demand for loanable funds goes up. Do you see what has happened to that interest rate? That interest rate went up, now causing investors not wanting to borrow at that amount. So this causes our interest rate to go up and business investment to go down. It's called the crowding out effect. And many people were complaining about this, that yes, the government has increased government spending for small businesses, but we see that the interest rate in turn, because the government is borrowing, is going to go up. So contractionary fiscal policy. The side effect of this is crowding in. In contractionary, the government increases taxes and decreases government spending. So in expansionary, the government's hand was in the money pit, right? And now that they're increasing taxes and decreasing government spending, they've taken their hand out. And now the money pit is open, that businesses can go in and start borrowing. So now it crowds in people to the pit. Okay? And so basically when the government spends less and tax more, the government develops a budget surplus because now they're taking money from people. This leads to a decrease in demand for loanable funds and an increase in the supply of loanable funds, which results in the interest rate going down. This will change the interest rate and leads to gross investment going up. In addition, the decrease in the interest rate causes the demand for dollars to go down, the supply of dollars to go up. And investors will seek higher returns elsewhere because the value of the dollar has really depreciated. But we're not even going to get to this in this unit because that's unit 6, and we're not going to have to do it for the AP test, talk about foreign exchange. This leads to the supply of money going down, which leads to exports going up, imports going down. So net XN is up. So let me show you how this looks on a graph. Oh, I don't know where the graph is.